Okay. Thank you. All right.
No.
Thank you. So I'm sure, watching the news and everything the past, 8 days, there's been a flurry of executive actions and just a lot of chaos, it seems like, going on. Um, so some of the key things that have happened recently, Trump, reinstated. The Muslim ban is not completely in effect. However, they laid the groundwork to reinstate the Muslim ban from before, but actually it even has a little bit, more stricter language. Um, that's a little bit even more dangerous for our community. So this executive order is called Protecting the United States from Foreign Terrorists and Other National Security and Public Safety Threats. Um, says the policy and purpose is the policy of the United States to protect its citizens from aliens who intend to commit terrorist attacks, threaten our national security, espouse hateful ideology, or otherwise exploit the immigration laws for malevolent purposes. Um, yeah, so there, and then the second part of that is to protect Americans. The United States must be vigilant during the visa issuance process to ensure that those aliens approved for admission into the United States do not intend to harm Americans or our national interests. More importantly, the United States must identify them before their admission or entry into the United States, and the United States must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the United States do not bear hostile attitudes towards the citizens, culture, government, institutions, or founding principles, and do not advocate for, aid, or support designated foreign terrorists and other threats to our national security. Yeah, so that language right there was a little bit of a mouthful, but with that language, it escalates the Muslim ban from last time because they're talking in here that the U.S. must identify individuals before their admission to the United States, uh, and that the United States must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the United States do not bear hostile attitudes towards its citizens. So with that, it seems that the federal government is being provided authority to, increase vetting for individuals trying to come to the United States. And most likely, this will predominantly be used, for individuals coming from majority Muslim countries. But it also will give the government the ability to monitor those individuals while they're here and also try to locate and identify individuals that are already here from countries that, the United States government is going to be identifying as problematic. So with that, uh, the first Muslim ban was shocking. It was bad. Now this one, it's not a complete ban yet, but Trump's authorizing the federal government to take a lot more increased measures in vetting Muslims coming. So, sorry, one second. I have some more information here about that. Um, they they said, they would, yeah. So under the order, um, the U.S. government is supposed to identify individuals from countries that America deems could be a threat to the United States. So America is going to start, it seems like, keeping more tabs on individuals, identifying individuals from specific countries. I think anytime we have the government collecting this information about specific individuals and keeping databases and things like that, it is problematic for our community and for our civil rights. So that is a problematic one. Another problematic executive order. Sorry, I have a question chat. So the question in the chat is, can I speak about how the recruitment of informants will increase as well, and their methods can be threatening Muslims to get them signed up as informants? Um, so generally, uh, this is an interesting question. And thank you for bringing it up. But generally, our advice to everybody in the Muslim community is if the FBI or law enforcement is trying to interact with you or ask you questions, um, you know, contact CAIR or your another attorney, but contact an attorney and don't meet with law enforcement unless you have an attorney. Um, if you only have an attorney with you, I think that will limit uh, the FBI putting pressure on our community to serve as informants or things like that. But lots of times you get in situations where, um, the FBI or somebody else in law enforcement will approach people in our community and say, "Oh, you're not in trouble. We just want to talk to you." And they talk to them. They think, "Oh, I have nothing to hide." But through the course of their interactions, maybe they accidentally, omitted something talking with the FBI agent, or they misremembered something, set a wrong date, or they were confused by something. And then later down the road, the FBI says, "Oh, well, you were lying to us. That's a serious crime, but we won't do that if, you know, you do XYZ for us." So in order to avoid getting into those situations, we recommend not interacting with law enforcement unless you have an attorney with you. Um, and also, if you are getting approached for by law enforcement or anyone to serve as an informant, like reach out to CAIR and let us know. I think just generally going forward right now with everything going on, like please report as much as possible. That's what we're trying to increase in our community, is reporting incidences of Islamophobia or discrimination, because statistically our community is facing a lot of discrimination, or anecdotally, our community is facing a lot of discrimination, but statistically, we're not reporting the numbers. People are afraid to come forward. So, inshallah, by doing events like this every month, trying to, like show our faces with the community, hopefully people are more trusting and more willing to come forward when they have, or when they are facing discrimination. And even when you come to report it to us, uh, you know, if you don't want to pursue something further, that's fine. Uh, it's up to the individual client, but the more information we know, the better we can help the Muslim community. Uh, the more we can try to get outside resources to help. So, definitely encourage everybody. And thank you, Esia, for putting it in the chat, the pa.cair.com/report. Okay, so let me pull up this next one. But this next executive order is Trump rescinded, Trump rescinded guidance and a policy for ICE that prohibited ICE agents from carrying out enforcement duties at sensitive locations. So last week, Trump removed that, rescinded that memo. So at this point in time, ICE is allowed to go to sensitive locations. So the sensitive locations are schools, places of worship, such as mosques and churches, hospitals, the site of a wedding or funeral or other public ceremony, and then marches, rallies, and parades. Now, ICE agents, they can wait around sensitive locations to arrest undocumented individuals. And something that is actually, very concerning, and a lot of masajids have been reaching out, and across the country, everyone's trying to figure out how to respond in these situations. But as of right now, this will be challenged, but as of right now, it's our understanding that ICE has the authority to enter into the masjid to arrest someone, but they can only go in public spaces of the masjid. So if there's private rooms or blocked off areas that aren't open to the general congregation, the ICE agents would need a judicial warrant in order to go into those areas of the masjid. But in the general, where everybody is praying, it appears that as of right now, ICE agents are able to go to the masjid. So with that, before, a lot of individuals that don't have undocumented individuals or individuals out of status or anything, they would seek refuge at churches, and they would have sanctuary policies where they would house undocumented individuals and things like that. Now going forward, if the masjids want to do that, you have to take a few extra steps in order to provide any type of sanctuary to individuals, and that you would have to have them in a closed off private area. And even at that point, that means that they would need a judicial warrant to arrest an individual. So this is something that we were asked last week. Could ICE agents come in during the middle of Juma prayer and arrest someone during the middle of prayer? And with the rescission of this policy, it seems as of right now, according to the law, without any judge ruling differently, is that theoretically that could happen. So for different masajid and stuff like that, we are here to provide advice. We'll work, each masjid's different in what they want to do, how, let's say, cooperative or combative they want to be with law enforcement just in general. But I think it's important that all of the masajid have policies in place so they know what to do if ICE or other law enforcement agents come to the masjid. It'll be good to create these policies, because who's supposed to interact with them? Who do you contact? Or is there anybody that you warn? So all these things, the different masjids can try to figure out. And if you reach out to us and want us involved in those conversations and planning, we'd be glad to help. So another thing that now that this thing, I think is something that kind of, it's fundamentally, we always think of schools as a safe space, and our, places of worship. So it'll be interesting to see how, the federal government weaponizes, doing law enforcement activities or, deportation or anything like that at masjids. I'm not aware of any that have happened yet. And I think that's also important to note that a lot of these things with Trump too, he's going for the shock effect. He wants to send this message. He wants people to not necessarily feel safe at their houses of worship. And that's definitely something that the community is feeling. So another thing that, Trump's doing is suspending the U.S. refugee resettlement program. That's, very much definitely impacts, the Muslim community. I think specifically like 1,700 Afghan individuals are being impacted by this. Something else that Trump's been implementing are these the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. He's passed several, executive orders eliminating DEI positions at the federal level. In general, that will, impact the Muslim community, as Muslims, but also the different, groups, racial and ethnic groups that make up the Muslim community. removing these programs. Lots of times we spent years, trying to get these programs into corporations and into the government, and seems that Trump's dismantling some of these things pretty quickly. I think something too that's alarming with the DEI stuff that's going on is that Trump's executive orders, they apply to the federal government. He did rescind something. I know on the news they're saying like, oh, he rescinded like the equal employment opportunity thing. That's still the law. He can't rescind the laws. Now, what he did is saying that the federal government doesn't have to ban contractors who discriminate or who do not. So sorry. Let me reframe this. But in order to contract with the federal government, you have to, verify that you're an equal employment opportunity provider. With Trump's executive order, in order to contract with the federal government, you don't need to do that now. It doesn't eliminate, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It doesn't eliminate Title VII, the Civil Rights Act. So all of the discrimination laws that are in place are still in place, and we're still able to, represent individuals and fight for the community. Oh, sorry, I'm going to take a step back. Sister Naila said, if that happens at a masjid, should we expect them to arrest everyone there? If law enforcement comes to the masjid, I do not see a situation where they would arrest everyone there. I think that would be, I think that would be very problematic. I think that would probably be illegal for them to just go to the masjid and just arrest everybody. If they are arresting a specific individual, though, I think that would possibly be acceptable. So, and that's what, under the First Amendment, the government can't, take any actions, specifically targeting a religious institution, and they can't prevent you from practicing your religion, right? Those are like the limitations of the federal government with religion. So in a situation where if the federal government put out an executive order saying no one can pray at a masjid, that violates, the First Amendment. But an executive order that says that, the government can arrest an individual who is at a religious place of worship, that's further removed from just the government like outright targeting one specific religion. So this will be interesting how this gets played out in the court system, because there is a way that judges can say that this is completely constitutional, and another way that they could say that it's not. But Sister Nyla, to your point, like if they start arresting just everybody there, I think that would more lend it to they're not just going to the masjid for law enforcement, responsibility, like they're going there to shut down religious worship. Yes, Sister Nyla.
Yeah, thank you. That helps to clarify. And I think I really appreciate you hosting this, because I think, it's the information is kind of coming like fast and furious. And so just getting our head wrapped around what's like our course of action in this context, in scenario, if ICE comes to the masjid, they're looking for a particular person, as you were saying earlier, like we shouldn't be engaging with with them or talking to them. I mean, like you were also suggesting, like we should have some policies and procedures that are set up at the masjid so we know what course of action we should be taking. That's your recommendation in those scenarios, that we should have something that we're all kind of like aligned on, and that, people start interacting, we should, dissuade them from doing that and make sure that we're following some specific, I don't like to use the word policy, but like some course of action that makes sense for the security of our broader community. Is that what you're?
Yes, definitely. And so each masjid's different, right? And each community is different. So I think the policies for each masjid will, should reflect, what, their constituents and congregants want, and how, they can best protect their community. Um, but, with that said, just generally like someone who would be the point of contact if ICE, did show up. Um, I think also too with that, with the point of contact of someone who will be interacting with ICE is finding someone who has um like a clean record and is a US citizen and that does not mind potentially being arrested in the moment. Um I understand that's like a tough ask of people. So you might not want to have that at the masjid, but that's always something, to consider. Because when ICE comes, just generally, if they're trying to get into the masjid and they're coming in there, like in no circumstances should anyone like try to resist them coming in. You don't have to open the door for them, right? If the door is shut, like you don't have to open the door. But if they open the door and they start to come in, like no one should push them. No one should, like get in front of them because then that would be like that would be a crime. And that would probably be assaulting, a law enforcement officer. So yes, always, right to remain silent. Uh, definitely. That's what we say. Don't say anything to them. If the only thing that you should say is I want to talk to my attorney and inshallah, call CAIR. Um, Now for the masjid communities, like practically, having just policies in place, who's go to, even rooms, um, like rooms that are set aside for individuals, to go to in these moments. Um, Sorry, trying to read this. So actually, I just kind of want to throw that out there, though. Has anybody been having these conversations with their masjid and the community about what to do if ICE shows up? So, I'll take that silence as no. Oh, but need guide. Yes, or but need guidance. Okay. Um, and that's what if you do need help with things, we can meet with you, but I think based off of the feedback right now, we can try to provide some more guidance. I know Ahmed last week, he emailed out to masjid leaders um, an advisory for mosque leadership on this executive order and kind of detailing some steps to take. I want to see if this is online or if we can post this online. Or so in the meantime, if you do need guidance, reach out to us at, pa.care report or email me. I'll put in my email or email me and we can, connect with your, um, oh, I was direct messaging. So I put my email in the chat. If you need us, to have these conversations, reach out. Something we'd be glad to do. And I think just want to throw this out there to some extent, like from a legal end, we think we know, what the laws, what the boundaries are, but we won't know for sure until the judges are ruling on these and to see where everything really settles. So in the meantime, everybody's trying their best to plan for, worst case scenarios, and hopefully it's not, we don't end up in worst case scenarios. Another just another thing, that Trump executive order has been halting foreign aid, except to a few countries, including Israel. There's also an executive order that has been or Trump in his executive orders has been also trying to take harsher rhetoric against campus protests, particularly the Palestine solidarity protests. There's been provisions that allow federal funding to be revoked from institutions perceived as tolerating anti-American protests or boycotts. Many Muslim students might face increased scrutiny about their ideology and things like that. It's going to have could have a chilling effect on free speech and peaceful protests. And actually, I want to circle back to some of the DEI stuff from earlier. I think, so Trump's doing these actions, eliminating these positions within the federal government. Okay, right. He said he was going to do that. I think something that's pretty concerning, though, that we're seeing is that all of a sudden, because Trump is doing it and saying it applies to the federal government, all of a sudden, like Walmart, Target, all these huge, companies are now eliminating their own DEI programs where nothing Trump has passed or said is requiring companies to eliminate DEI. But it seems that a lot of these companies are trying to move in a direction towards kind of appeasing Trump's sentiments, which I do think is something that is problematic just generally. Corporations, a couple years ago with the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, corporations started creating DEI departments, putting out statements and things like that, because it seemed that corporations made the decision that that was in their interest at the time, and right now it seems that they're starting to go the opposite way. So I don't know if this is just something that's just superficial or whether this will make, trying to cooperate or interact with employers on accommodations and things that impact our Muslim community, whether that will whether that will impact it. Sorry, let me I'm gonna put my cell phone number in the chat as well. Does anybody have any questions in the meantime, or any thoughts on any of the executive orders or anything that they have questions about just generally?
I have a question. Sorry,
Yeah,
Naila. So he's releasing all these executive orders, but you said they still have to go and what's the process for these orders? So he's signing, we see him it's very performative and obviously incredibly devastating, these things that he's signing. And obviously things are being put into effect, but there's potential recourse through the courts. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. So with executive orders, generally an executive order is not supposed to be creating any type of new law. The legislature, Congress is supposed to create laws, but the executive orders, they're pretty much how, so the president can determine how the executive agencies can enforce or interpret those laws. So when he passes these executive orders, it's applying to the executive branch of the government, which falls under the president. So that's like under his domain technically. So ICE, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that falls under the presidency. So he's with, let's say, the rescission of the the sank the sensitive locations, right? Before, I believe it was Obama was that implemented the sensitive locations. So Obama had issued a policy memo to the executive branch saying, like, we're no longer going to, target individuals that are not a public safety, threat at schools, hospitals, this. So now Trump's rescinding that guidance to like his employees under the executive agency. Now, in order to challenge it, what would have to happen is most likely, ICE goes to a masjid and arrests somebody and go through the process of challenging it, that way. There are organizations that have, filed lawsuits against the government, like trying to preemptively challenge, for a court to rule that things are unconstitutional. That's a little bit of a harder area, a harder way to like preemptively challenge the laws. But there is recourse. Ultimately, Trump's giving this an executive order. Trump's giving that guidance to the executive branch pretty much on like how they're supposed to interpret the rules or interpret the laws. But at the end of the day, a judge still has the authority to say like, no, that's incorrect, or this, rescission of the policy memo goes against federal laws or goes against the Constitution. I don't know exactly what the arguments would be, like how strong the arguments would be to say that those actions are unconstitutional. I think in this moment and just generally, having people go arrest someone at masjids, churches, hospitals, schools, more or less the government has the authority to do that. It's just whether they should be doing it. And they haven't before because it's not like a good look, and they want to create safe spaces, and they want certain communities to like feel safe in certain areas. And now the government's just making the conscious choice to like eliminate that. So again, it's more there's a lot of optics involved with this as well. So sorry, but they can request official credentials. They should also request to see. Yes. So Donia said that masjid leaders can request official credentials, identification, badge numbers that enter the masjid space. They should also request to see the warrant and determine if it's an official judicial warrant signed by a judge that specifies the scope of the search or not. If they don't have a judicial warrant that's signed by the appropriate party, it would not be a legal arrest. This doesn't have the other stuff. Sorry. So Donia, thank you for that message. Now, I didn't get into all of that here tonight. But in our Know Your Rights, workshops that we have been trying to go around to masjids, and we are open to doing for masjids. So if anybody wants us, to come to a training, we do go through, the warrants, and, an order of deportation or order of removal is different than a judicial, warrant signed by a judge. We do, in our trainings, like show what a judicial warrant looks like, where to look for the signatures, where to look for the name, where to look for what is supposed to be searched. So yes, I think those are all, very important things. And if any of your masjids need help with that, we can do those trainings. Or we are also trying right now to work on. We want to be as much of a benefit as we can to the community. So whatever that means that we have to do, we're trying to figure out whether that means having each week at a different masjid, or whether it means trying to you know try to do some like regional presentations where we can a couple masjids at once, or whether we do like Zoom events so we can try to reach out to all the the larger community across PA. But I think those things are, Donia, what you said are important, and it is very important, I think, for the masjid leaders to be trained in that and what to look for. And there has to be a recording place as well. That's what, if ICE comes to, just always call us. We're here to respond. We're here to defend the community. But trying to think. So we do some advocacy stuff for Delaware. Neither of our attorneys are licensed in Delaware, so we don't do like legal work, but we can provide advocacy. We can provide guidance to the masjids. We can do know your rights trainings and stuff like that, and how you can interact with ICE. So we do Delaware. Now, New Jersey, there is a CAIR New Jersey chapter, but sometimes we overlap with some, with things in Camden or right across the river. So we do have a CAIR New Jersey chapter as well. But, if you are having issues in New Jersey or Delaware as well, reach out to us. And if it's something that we can't take on, we can, point you to the right direction. So weekly town hall updates or some sort of newsletter. Okay. Newsletter. There any other issues that are pressing, or that have been, the subject of talk in your communities? It's been, there's a lot going on in the past just 8 days, but
Do you ever get requests from non-Muslim organizations such as churches to come and do your talks there?
So like I've done talks at a church. I'm trying to think of whether the organization that invited us was the church itself, or like or a nonprofit that was using the church. But we aren't just catered, we're a civil rights organization, emphasizing on, protecting and defending the Muslim community. But we do partner sometimes with other sorry, I was getting text messages. But sometimes we do partner with other organizations, and like we got reached out today from, or said with the Palestine protests. Lots of the organizations that we're dealing with aren't Muslim, only organizations, or Muslim in general. And sometimes in some situations, none of the students we were representing happened to be Muslim in, certain campuses or something like that. Now, with that said, we do want to try to, spend most of our efforts into, uplifting the Muslim community. But so however we can best do that, though. So weekly town hall updates or some type of newsletter. I have these ideas written down. We are going to be trying to do the Know Your Right workshops. We're trying to share something, but okay, hold on one second.
It's okay. I could just share it on my screen, and
Okay.
then if anybody wants it, we can email it to them. You can private message me your email. But this was something I think Sister Dana sent it. Thank you. That we sent out. If you want to talk about it after, I'm Adam. But if anybody wants the letter, we can send this out as well. But this was something that was shared.
Yes, this did go out to the mosque leaders, the masjid leaders, last, I want to say Thursday evening Thursday evening or Friday, right when Trump rescinded the policy memo. So this does give a couple, step-by-step things. It was sent directly to masjid leadership, in our list that we have. I do think just generally sometimes, like with something like this, I think we didn't send it out or put it on our website because of some of the advocacy aspects of it, like providing guidance on how, masjids can interact or protect individuals who are undocumented. So if you email us, we can email the letter to you. To new, yes. That's just Assalamu alaikum, Sister Zakia. Yes, we will send that over to New Medina. The newmedina.information@gmail.com. Yes, inshallah, I'll get this sent over. And is it Padmaja? If you want to put your email in the chat or message us directly, can send it over to you as well. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rashida. Assalamu alaikum. Do minors have particular rights more than adults? That's a good question. I would say yes. Always let's advocate for our children. But yes, I think especially at school, their speech rights are protected more. I think even with like religious accommodations coming up, for Ramadan in school, I think schools are under more of an obligation to provide those accommodations than an employer would. I think even with students, right to prayer and things like that. What I think this saying is that students don't shed their free expression at the school gate. So minors and ICE. Now that's something I would have to do I would actually have to partner with someone who specializes in that because I think that's more of a complicated, that's definitely a more complicated area that I do not have expertise in, and I don't want to say anything that's incorrectly or that is incorrect. But I think that's a excellent point and something that's missing, I think, for our community that inshallah, we can try to address that gap and provide guidance on how minors can interact with ICE and what protections they have. Thank you, Sister Rashida. So I'm trying to get everybody's
I got him, Adam.
are you
Yeah,
thank
but
you. I was like struggling. Um, so that's I don't have anything else on. I try to keep these things brief so we can, try to get information, but not be too overloading. But are there any other questions or any concerns or I'm thinking uh the next one will be February the 25th. So inshallah, we can for the next one, I'm planning to do like preparing for Ramadan and things like that. So if you have any problems running into accommodations or anything like that, um, for the students or at work, definitely reach out to CAIR, but I'll try to go do a primer on that before Ramadan at our next town hall, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed. I was just about to wrap up, unless you have anything else or
Yeah, my other meeting went long. Allah bless you and everyone here.
all right. Well, thank you, Ahmed. Yeah, we went through some of the executive orders. We do have a lot of people do want some of the guidance that we sent out, for the masjids. And some of the feedback we're getting, people would like maybe like a weekly newsletter or a weekly town hall or something, to provide updates as to what's going on. And then a lot of them, a lot of people are saying that they want help, you know, with, help with creating policies and how to engage, with ICE if ICE are to, come to their masjid. And they asked, if we would be like willing to, work with the masjids to help draft those policies.
No, absolutely. I think like all of the above, definitely with our legal team, we can help in your local areas. And Sam, to those of you who I haven't met, I'm the executive director at CAIR-Philadelphia. I just had another meeting that went long. But I was just saying that, one specific step that everyone can take in their local area is to encourage your school district to be a welcoming school district, right? Which means that the schools cooperation with ICE, and as such, and some of these agencies will be limited. We currently have some of these initiatives around the states together with our allies, not only just CAIR-Philadelphia, Norristown area school district, past this Norristown school district, for example, early in the fall of 2024, our local masjid there was actively involved. Currently, we have this effort in Allentown area, as well as welcoming city policies are being introduced at different city councils and as such, which again is one way to protect our communities, our institutions. But at the same time, yeah, so both the masjid guidance, we can, I think, turn that into something a bit more broader for the community, as well as like, some of the other steps that you have mentioned, Adam, just in consultation with our legal team, we should be sure to, inshallah, communicate these over to our community. And more timely updates as well.
Inshallah. That's I know there was like seemed like a 2 week lull in cases at the end of the year. But now everything's under this new administration, it's right back up into an onslaught of cases. we have updates at the banquet. Interesting. I'm not really involved in so much of the banquet planning, but I defer to Ahmed on that. Whether there'll be updates at the banquet also. So the question, between Biden and Trump first administration, is there some significant difference in anti-Muslim hate crimes? So might want to defer to Ahmed, but I think just generally the spike in the increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes, was after October 7th, 2023. That seems to be like the defining moment that things have really increased. Yeah, and that's what last year there was there was a lot of anti-Muslim, and Islamophobic incidents that happened after October 7th, and we didn't have support of, the general progressives that, at least under the Trump first administration, there was support from the progressives, at least for the Muslim community. Right. So I did, inshallah, everybody should have my email address. I put it in the chat. We did put the reporting website up there. If you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out. And inshallah, I'll see everybody next month, and inshallah, I'll see everybody at the banquet as well. That's it's coming up soon. But is it February 22nd, I believe? All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining this evening. And if there's anything, if we can help out in any way, please reach out. And inshallah, look forward to seeing everybody again soon. Jazakallah khairan. Walaikum salam, Sister Zakiya. Thank you.